Well, good morning, and thank you for joining us today for our broadcast of hope. And I'm excited, and it seems like every day we're getting some good guests here. And I'm excited about today's guest. I've actually had the privilege of meeting him when I went to South Africa about a year ago this time. It was May of last year. Got to go to South Africa. Probably drove him crazy, trying to figure out a way to get to places. But his name is Aaron Smith. Aaron is the pastor of Baby Road Baptist Church, and I'm going to introduce you to him here. Let me bring him up.
Good morning.
I got to do something else there, Brother Aaron. I'm going to bring us both up here like this, and then, Brother Aaron, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Can you hear me well?
Yes, sir. Thank you so much for joining us today, and I will get rid of this view in just a minute. I probably drove you crazy when I was going to South Africa. I've never been out of the country, and I kind of messed it up for us. We were supposed to go tour England, but me, the dummy guy, just decided to go through customs and all that, so I couldn't get back out. And then when he wanted to come in, and it was just a bad thing. So I apologize for making your trip to England so terrible.
No, man, it was, I had a great time. I enjoyed meeting you on that trip. I think we created some good memories together.
Yes.
And just had a great time. Of course, going to South Africa was a joy. Being able to preach together and just share that was a pretty cool time for me.
Absolutely. Well, Brother Aaron, I told you I've got somebody anonymously sent me a video, so that's why I've got us both up on the screen, because I want to show this video. I want to show this video right now, and I think I had you muted the whole time going out, so hopefully not. I've got a video I want to show, and I want to give both of our reactions to it. The first
Yeah,
video,
all right, bring it on.
It's regular speed. Then I put some slow motion in it behind it. And for all those listening out there, I want you to listen for the creaking of wood. Okay, so Brother Aaron, here you go. This is for you.
He broke the chair, man! Broke the chair!
Hold on, it gets better now.
Jesus, what are we trying to fix? Keep going, just keep going, bro.
Here we go.
Oh my goodness.
Broke the chair!
Oh my word.
Yeah.
Jesus, what are we trying to fix? Keep going, just keep going, bro.
That's hilarious, man.
What do you think about that?
I think I saw the anonymous head that gave you that video in that. It
anonymous
pops
head.
up right there on the side.
Whose anonymous head was that?
That was Michael Turner.
I didn't see no anonymous head in there. I didn't see that.
Yeah,
I'll
I'm
have to
pretty
go back.
sure.
I'll have to go back in there and watch it.
Yeah, Michael, of course, was my roommate back at Crown College back at the day, and we always had a good time. We may have been making fun of a few professors at that time, but that was
I took some of the names out to protect the
That
innocent.
video has a way of resurfacing over the years.
I can neither confirm nor deny that source.
No, that is quite all right.
I
That's
can't
fine.
do
That's
it.
hilarious, man.
I'm gonna move me over here. Well, sometimes you just gotta laugh. Sometimes you gotta.
Oh yeah.
Sometimes you just gotta laugh and have a good time. Well, I think every day you gotta laugh and have a good time, and that's one thing I appreciate about you. To me, you're just a fun guy. You're a fun person to be around, and you made my trip to South Africa. Of course, Mark Coffey really he's an extraordinary missionary doing wonderful work over there. And I would go on a missions trip with you again in a heartbeat, just because it was so much fun.
Yeah, same here.
So
Yeah, Mark's a super missionary. He's one of my closest friends, and I've known Mark for a long time. He's one of the best Christians I know, and just doing a great job in South Africa with Camp Rhino, and of course Kevin and Jeremy Hall there with him. They just work so well together as a team, and I'm excited for what's happening there in South Africa. It's been one of the highlights of my life. I'm looking forward to being back there one day and taking my wife with me, Lord willing.
I'm with you. Whenever you do, let me know, because I'll bring my wife and we'll just do a double date to Africa. How about that?
Absolutely, man. Let's do it.
But you gotta be careful, right? It's the fourth time. Is that Mark's philosophy? The fourth time.
Third time.
Okay.
After the third visit.
Okay.
But Mark and I have talked about that. He said as long as I just send at least one young person over in my place, we're good.
You've already got the stipulations put out there, huh? That's good.
Yes.
Well,
yeah.
Mark's actually going to be with us on Friday, so I'm looking forward to that.
Good. I'll be tuning in to check that out.
Well, that's good. I'm getting some echo from your spot over there.
Okay. Well, you sound good on my end.
Well, good. Hey, you sound good. So, hey, real quick, I just want to go over some things that you've had. Let's just say a different year this year. You've recently started a new church and moved there to become pastor. You know, you're opening up a new chapter in your life, and just I want you to tell us what's transpired in your life just over the last even 2 months. You know, from you transitioning out of one church, going to another church, and then your wife maybe going through what she went through. You know, and you can give all the details you want to give about that. I'm not going to give stuff about it that you don't want out. So basically, I just want to hear what's been going on in your life. And I know, sometimes it seems like things can stack up on us, and it can be discouraging. It can almost feel like the world is just weighted down on you. So just tell us about the last 2 months, what you've gone through as far as transitioning and your wife. And then we'll get into how God has brought you through it.
Sure. No, I appreciate you asking and having us on to talk about all of this. But no, it all really started back in December of 2019 as the Lord had been stirring in my heart for quite a while to make a move from the pastorate I had in Mobile, Alabama, and had no idea what the future would hold. And as I prayed about it and talked about it with my wife, we just decided we would trust the Lord and walk through the doors by faith as they were opened. And so as we did that, in January, I began looking and just looking at what would be next for our lives. And in, late February, we decided we would, candidate here at Bailey Road Baptist Church. And the church here is going to celebrate 70 years in July. And so, we had no idea what the future would hold. But as they called us to come here and be the pastor here at this church, we just followed the Lord by faith and did not have any idea what would transpire after we accepted that call to come here. And it's just been to watch the Lord. He's done amazing things. Jeremiah talks about great is thy faithfulness. And we have definitely seen that each step of the way. Of course, we spent much time in prayer about what would happen, about what steps we would take, about how we wanted to leave our church in Mobile, to how we wanted to come here. Of course, we planned things, we tried different things, but as the Lord opened the doors, there were some things that we couldn't plan for. One thing that just seemed to go over and over again in our minds was, where are we going to live? We had a church parsonage in Mobile. We had no idea what was going to happen here. And so while we made our visit, we went ahead and made an offer on a house. trusting the Lord that everything would go through. And the guy accepted our offer. We wanted to do everything in 30 days or less, and we just went through the process. And it happened that he accepted the offer, and so we knew we had a place to live if the Lord allowed us to come.
Right.
And so we made an offer on a house by faith that the Lord was in this. And that was an exciting time because we had no idea what was going to happen. Of course, we went through the process. The church was able to be a big blessing to us in helping us get the house. We had a great realtor. The mortgage company was great. And then, of course, through that process, this coronavirus, COVID-19 global pandemic struck. And I remember the realtor calling and saying, I don't know what's going to happen. The mortgage company called as we were going through the process and said, well, we may not be able to close on time. We don't know, about possession. And then when it finally came down to the wire, the courthouse was closed, and we didn't know how the deed was going to be recorded. And then once everything, transpired, we finally closed, and we're like, okay, here we go. And so that was the week before we were scheduled to move. Of course, anytime you're moving through pastorates, there's always, while you know what's happening, there's a lot of unknowns.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, we were, my wife and I were nervous in telling our children and telling our church in Mobile what was happening in our lives. But through it all, the Lord had just prepared their hearts because they responded not with great joy. There was some sorrow there as we left on both sides. We'd spent 11 years there in Mobile ministering and trying to give our lives to the church and to the people we ministered to. And we miss them, but we also know we're in the Lord's will here. And so they really loved us over the month that we were there after we announced we were leaving, and just made it. They made it not easy, but they helped us to know that, okay, God is in this. And then as we have got ready to move, I preached our last Sunday. We didn't know through the COVID-19 deal what was happening, so we just kept having church. We didn't miss a service. We kept going through. Of course, Mobile and Alabama was a little late to the game as far as stay-at-home orders, so that helped us because after the Sunday we left, Alabama issued the stay-at-home order. And so we just think that was the Lord as well in allowing us to be able to spend that time with the church there in Mobile. But of course, there were several folks that we were not able to say goodbye to face to face. And that was a little difficult. And then as we were packing up the truck on Monday, the Monday, I don't even remember the date, but we were scheduled to leave on Tuesday afternoon. And my wife had been feeling sick for about, probably a couple of weeks. And she had a checkup a couple of weeks prior to that she thought maybe there was something from that. And so we didn't really do anything or think much about it. It was somewhat normal. And on Monday night, she came to me as we were finishing the last few things. And she said, I know we're supposed to leave tomorrow. She said, but I think it would be better if we left on Wednesday. I need to rest a little bit. I'm not feeling well. And we can clean up the house and get things ready, and then we can leave on Wednesday. What do you think? And I said, sure, that's fine. And so she said, well, I'm going to go to bed. And it was about 8:30, which is usually pretty early for us. But she went and laid down on the air mattress in our bedroom, and the boys had some friends over, and so they helped me load up the last few things in a trailer. And so we proceeded to prepare to do that. And I think I finally came to bed around 11:30 or 12 that night, and Rachel was just having a horrible night, just in a lot of pain, and she moaned and groaned through the night. And when we woke up on Tuesday morning, it was probably about 7:30, and she said, I'm going to go ahead and call my doctor and see what they want me to do. I'm going to try to get in today. And so she called them, told them what she was experiencing, and they said, well, Rachel, why don't you go ahead and go to the emergency room? And so we loaded up in the truck, and it was just before 9 o'clock, and headed to the emergency room there in Mobile. And as we were driving in, there was a street sign that they had installed at the hospital that said no visitors allowed due to state regulations.
Oh,
and so she said, well, I guess you can drop me off, and then I'll call you when I'm done, and I'll call you in a couple hours when they let me go. So I dropped her off, and I sat in the parking lot for a few minutes, and she said, why don't you go ahead and go home, and I'll let you know when they, let me go. And so I said, okay, I'll get a few things done. So I went home and proceeded about the morning and doing some cleaning and giving the kids some directions. And probably about an hour and 45 minutes later, she called me, and she said, well, the doctor came in. They've done a CT scan and some blood work. And she said, I have a severe kidney infection and a very large kidney stone that's impassable. And they want to do surgery to remove the kidney stone this morning. And she said, so I'm going to have surgery to get that taken care of. And I said, okay. And we kind of went along our day. And about 40 minutes later, after we spoke on the phone, it may not even been that long, she texted me and said, I'm on my way to pre-op. And so they got her in pretty quickly, and her fever was real high, over 103. And I just kept kind of waiting. It was very difficult, not being able to be there. I would say that was probably the most difficult part of this process with her being in the hospital. It's one thing having a loved one in the hospital, being able to be there and hold their hand and, do what they need that the nurses can't do. But they wouldn't even let us in the door. And so we did that. And the doctor called me on later that afternoon and said, told me what had happened. And he said, so I got in. He said, and once I got in, he said, I got a stent in, which will allow some fluid to flow out of the kidney. He said, but the infection was so bad, I could not remove the stone. And he said, and, again, on the phone, he said, because I asked him, I said, well, why didn't you remove the stone? I thought that was the whole purpose of going in and doing that. And he said, I planned to remove the stone. He said, but once I got in there, the infection was so bad that if I had removed the stone, the infection would be all throughout her body, and we'd probably lose her.
Oh my goodness.
And, that was very sobering to think about and consider. And I was thankful for his wisdom in leaving the stone in. And he told me, he said, here's the plan. He's like, we need to clear up the infection. That's the most important thing right now. And so we'll plan to take the stone next Tuesday. And now, of course, we've got a truck packed full of things, ready to move to Ohio the very next day. And he says, we're going to do this next Tuesday. And so going through my mind, I'm just sitting there thinking, what are we going to do? And what's the best thing to do here? And of course, Rachel, of course, came through the post-op, and we talked later that afternoon. And she said, I'm obviously going to be here for a little while. And through that process, I talked with my mother-in-law, and she said that she would come down to Mobile and be there for Rachel when she gets out and help her. And because Rachel said, go ahead and get to Ohio and then you can come back and get me. And so we just went through that process, and we loaded up the truck on Wednesday morning. My brother-in-law drove down from Tennessee and picked up a trailer that Rachel was supposed to drive, so we could get all of our things there. And so we did. It was hard, leaving during that time, but not being able to be at the hospital. There was nothing else we could do. We only had the rental truck for so long. And so I got in the truck, and the kids got in the other car, and we headed to Ohio. And we were planning to stop in Tennessee the first night to stay with my in-laws anyway. So we had a few men from the church here at Bailey Road. They drove up from here to Tennessee to pull the trailer back to Ohio, because I had a 26-foot U-Haul with a 6x12 trailer on the back of it, and our second car that my daughter was driving, and then we had one rogue trailer that had to get here. So they really helped us with that. And it was funny because as we spent the night on Wednesday night at my in-laws on Thursday, my son was with me, and he kind of acted as my secretary, sending text messages and emails and responding to people. And Thursday afternoon, we were probably 3 hours from being here in Ohio. I called the realtor to let her know what time we would be arriving, and we were supposed to be there on Wednesday, of course. And she said we'd have the house, and no biggie. And as we were traveling in, she called me, and she said, Aaron, I don't know how to tell you this, but we haven't fully closed yet. And because the courthouse has been closed, they haven't recorded your deed, which means the seller doesn't have his money, which means he won't give you the keys until he has his money. And I said, okay, well, we can make arrangements for tonight, but we have things to unload. We had movers coming to help us on Friday morning. And the mortgage company, or the title company, called me about an hour later and said, well, we've got it worked out to where we can get him his money before the deed is recorded. So you can get the keys this evening. And again, just the faithfulness of the Lord allowing us to get in our house upon arrival. And that was great. And then that was Thursday. And during that process, of course, we had talked with Rachel several times, and they had been treating her infection with some pretty heavy IV antibiotics and giving her a lot of fluids. And during that process, while she was in the hospital being treated for a severe kidney infection along with a kidney stone, she contracted pneumonia. And the focus switched from the infection to the pneumonia. And, she was fighting and fighting for her life while we're there moving. And so we went through the process. My mother-in-law was in Mobile. She got a hotel room and was able to, kind of stay close by in case Rachel got out. And we went through the motions here. We got everything unpacked. And I don't know about you, Scott, but I do not recommend ever moving without your wife.
Yeah, I wouldn't either.
Because I didn't know where anything went. I mean, everything was marked, but my wife's pretty particular. And so when they kept asking, where's this stuff going? I'm like, I don't know. But we got it done, and the best that we could, and we survived that weekend. We had church on Sunday morning. I say we had church. I preached to a camera because Ohio has been on a shutdown for several weeks. When we moved here, they originally had the stay-at-home order was supposed to be lifted on April 6th, which we got here on April 3rd. So we thought, well, that's be no problem. We'll have a few days on the shutdown and stay-at-home order. But then as we were traveling on Thursday, the governor of Ohio extended the stay-at-home order till May 1st. And that just changed everything. Then part of the process there, I was going to fly back to Mobile on Monday. On Saturday, I think it was, Rachel texted me and said, "Hey, I just heard that the governor of Mobile shut down flights, or governor of Alabama shut down flights in and out of Alabama." And I said, "No," I said, "that can't be, you know." And so we looked it up, and that wasn't true. That was just something that somebody had told her. But I was able to fly out Monday morning and be with her. She was actually released from the hospital on Sunday evening. And so she was able to stay with her mom and that night. And then I arrived in Mobile on Monday afternoon, and we still had a few things left at the house that we moved out of. So I got another trailer, I got Rachel, and we spent a couple of days there. She ended up having the surgery on Tuesday, which we were very grateful for. And they removed the kidney stone, left the stent in, of course. And we stayed on Wednesday to let her kind of rest and relax. And then on Thursday, she had a follow-up appointment, which she was clear to go. And so we left on Thursday and arrived here on Friday through that process. So, through all of this, the Lord has been so good. The Lord's been good to our family. We trust Him, and we try to live our lives by faith and not knowing what the future would hold. We didn't plan this. I preached on the first Sunday I was here. One of the things the Lord taught me several years ago was through one of my mentors, Brother Daryl Hayes. He's a wonderful evangelist. He's in his 70s, and he's given his life to the ministry, and he's been a big help to me over the years. But his wife has been nearly bedridden for a long time, and as he was contemplating going into the ministry of evangelism from the pastorate, his wife encouraged him to do so. And I remember it's probably been 15 years ago. Brother Hayes was talking about Mrs. Hayes, and he said, she said the sweetest thing to me the other day as they were talking on the phone and praying together. She said to him, she said, Daryl, if I would have been able to choose for my life what it would be, I never would have chosen this. To be bedridden and for you to be on the road and for us to be apart a lot of the time. She said, I never would have chosen this for myself. She said, but because God has brought it and allowed us to do this, I figure I must embrace it. And, Scott, that has, ever since then, that has helped me go through difficult times of my life. And, compared to Mrs. Hayes, what we just went through was not much. And through this, I've just tried to live my life to embrace what comes, whether it's good, whether it's bad. We know that it rains on the just and the unjust. People get sick. Good people get sick. Bad people get sick. In between people get sick. And so we've just tried to live our lives embracing what comes because we know God has allowed it. And that's what I preached through that the first Sunday I was here. And I feel like it's helped our church, because they had all kinds of things planned for us and in our arrival that they were disappointed they weren't able to do. And so I'd planned on preaching out of Joshua the first Sunday. But as I woke up that Sunday morning, the Lord just put First Peter on. Been through that. We had been through that. Really, the world has been through that with this COVID-19 mess. But all through it all, Scott, the Lord has just been really, really good to us, and He's been faithful. Jeremiah talks about His mercies are new every morning, and we know that it's only by His mercy that we are not consumed, and we trust Him in all things, and even in all of this, He's just been so good to us. But our house is coming in order. The church is coming together. Of course, we had a drive-in service for Easter, so we were able to see many people that we hadn't been able to see yet, and we'll kind of go over these next few weeks, preparing for the first Sunday in May. We're hopeful to be able to meet at that time. We haven't been able to meet together as a church yet, but I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to singing together and shaking hands and embracing people. I think it's going to be a good time, and I think that the Lord is using this time, hopefully, to help people understand what it is and what it means to gather together. God created us to need companionship and to need contact. So this whole social distancing thing is not what God had planned. So I hope people understand that. And when we are able to come back together as a church, I think it's going to be a glorious time.
I would agree with you on that one. And, it seems like main theme that a lot of other pastors that I've talked to have had, and you're not the first one to bring up Lamentations where His mercies are new every morning and great is His faithfulness. It just seemed like going through the situation you're going through. I mean, I would, as a human being, I would have been tempted to ask God, why? Why are you allowing all this stuff to happen to me at this particular time? You've given me the peace to move. You've given me the peace to do this. And now all this stuff is coming against me. And so I think it's encouraging to me. I know it is to me, and I know it is to the people watching, that go the way you expected. But that doesn't mean that God is any less God than He was before that. So I appreciate
Absolutely.
that encouragement. I do appreciate your encouragement
Amen.
there. But is there anything we can be praying for you? I know you're at a new church, and sometimes a new church you drink from the fire hydrant. It seems like trying to understand what's going on. But is there anything that we can be praying for you today and the rest of this week?
Sure. The COVID-19 has definitely slowed things down. And so there's been just a stream, hasn't been the fire hydrant effect yet. And so we'll continue to try to get to know the people. I think once we get through this week, we're going to try to start making some home visits with some of our church folks and just kind of check in on people. And I think we're allowed to do that. I'm not even sure. So just pray for that. Pray for wisdom as we navigate through this. Of course, no one's been through this before, in our time at least, and so these are new territories. But we're trying to get in here and get to know the folks here at Bailey Road, and they've been so good to us through this process. Of course, getting Rachel here, and Rachel's still recovering a little bit. She's tired easily. She's a little weaker than she normally is, and trying to unpack a house. But folks have been bringing meals to us, and that's been just a big blessing through this. So the church has been great. They stocked our pantry with pantry items and cleaning supplies and all of that. So it's been wonderful. We're just really looking forward to being able to have church as normal, and talking to a camera and preaching to a camera. It's actually a little easier than what I thought it would be, but it's still different, and it's not the same as being able to see faces and get responses that way. And so we're really looking forward to that. So just pray for all of this. And I know we're not the only ones going through that time. But I never dreamed moving during a time like this. I can tell you that.
I'm sure when you were making plans, it wasn't like, hey, COVID-19 come on and my wife gets sick. But hey, God is faithful. And man, I so
Amen.
appreciate your friendship, your time with me today. And I will make this available on our Facebook page, and I'll tag your church in it. So if your people want to see it, I think it's been a blessing. But you mind if I close this in a word of prayer?
Yeah, please.
All right. Heavenly Father, thank you for this time that we've been able to spend together through technology. Thank you that we've got the ability to do this. And Lord, I pray that you would be with Pastor Aaron as he is maneuvering this new stage of life. Lord, it seems like everything has just piled on him. But thank you for the faithfulness that you've demonstrated in our lives. Thank you that you've been there and that you're going to continue to be there. Lord, I pray that you'll be with him in the next few weeks. Be with every church that's having to do things different. Lord, I pray that you would allow us to meet together again and that you would remove this COVID-19 from our society. And Lord, that you would just do something that only you can do. And just continue to be with Rachel, help her to heal up. And Lord, thank you again for his friendship and his time today. In your name we pray. Amen. Brother, I love you, and if I can do anything for you, you call me, okay?
Amen, bro. I appreciate you and your ministry. I hope you're doing well. And tell your family we said hello, and we'll be praying for you.
All right, brother. Well, God bless you, and have a great day.
All right. Hey, and when you're able to, give Michael Turner a big hug for me.
We'll see what we can do about that one.
All right, man.
All right.
Thanks a
We'll
lot,
see you.
brother.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Bye-bye.